Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
And welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable She Serves, She Matters with our partner NWVU, which is the National Women Veterans United. August is National Wellness Month. Today is Saturday, August 13th, 2022. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean, Claiborne Army National Guard veteran and co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner on the line, a familiar voice you've heard before many times over the years in this show. That is Rochelle Crump. She's a U.S. Army veteran, the president and founder of the National Women's Veterans United. And she brought us a panelist, Felice Searles. She's a U.S. Air Force disabled veteran and executive director of the Nancy's Home Care Services. And we want to talk about how the VA is doing with VA resources when it pertains to home health care services, particularly for aging minority and military women veterans. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Doing fine. Thank you. How are you doing, Sean?
Doing
good
really
to hear
good.
your voice, and thank you so much for having us today.
Pleasure's all mine. So what's going on? Is there a disparity between what, particularly first with older veterans? We had the Jesse Brown VA on earlier, and they talked about some of the things they're doing now with senior veterans and people who have maybe not getting the attention that they needed. Now the Jesse Brown VA stepping up and trying to give some resources to older veterans. So what could the VA be doing also in other places to help senior veterans, and particularly women minority veterans?
Well, absolutely, and I'm glad that they're having that conversation because it is very much warranted. And, you know, when you talk about the seniors, you talk about some people who are just not seniors. They're also disabled seniors, which has a different impact, you know, on their livelihood, if you will, and the type of help and services that they need, you know, on a consistent basis. So, and I don't believe that, you know, and I'm glad to hear that they recognize that again, and that means that they will have to do something about it, you know, because sometimes we don't talk about things because if we do, we have to do something about it. That's what we say about the violence, you know, and things like that come up. But let's just say that, you know, when you think about getting old, you know, is not like it used to be when you were able to care for yourself, and we all try to take care of ourselves as long as we can. However, we still wind up needing different things. You know, we start looking around our house, and I just have to use myself as an example. I have stairs in my house. I started looking at the stairs, and I'm saying, okay, well, what's going to happen in a couple of years or more? You know, do I stay here? Do I move? You know, I'm thinking ahead of the game, if you will. What if something happens and, you know, I become disabled right away? You know, how will I take care of myself? Can I rely on my son to have to do that? Will he have to put his own life on hold? You know, you're looking at all of those things that really matter as you get older. And, of course, you know, it comes at you as a surprise. So, you know, you look at the outside of home care services in which, you know, I'm working hard with Felice, and we're working with some outside entities to try to bring more funding into the fold of being able to help those who need it in the home, some with skilled care and some without skilled care. You know, because you look at certain things when they do home care services, and now you're looking at COVID, how that impacted, you know, people going to the homes to get the services they needed. You look at now people are going into homes where no one even knew that senior who's 80 years old is living in squalor, or, you know, they're hoarders. You know, you're looking at things like that. Are they reporting it? What are they doing about it? Do we have something in place that would be able to help them pay for it? You know, it's all those things that we don't necessarily talk about. That's why it's so important today to have this conversation.
I think it is important to have that conversation, particularly because we all, if we are blessed, will be getting older. So, but one of the few things we plan for is getting older, but if you've ever had to take care of someone who was older, that's usually when you get your first wake-up call. If you were fortunate and blessed enough to have been able to take care of an older person and watch the situations that they go through, where they can't get out of bed, or they have difficulty dressing themselves, or cleaning the house up, keeping the house clean, or for being forgetful about stuff, taking their medications, for example. Felice, what can you add to the conversation? What are some of the resources that are out there? Because home health care is a big industry. However, it's very expensive.
Yes. Yes. So, hi. So the VA, they do offer in-home care through the VA Community Care Program. And then you also have the Illinois Department on Aging. If the person is income qualified for services through the Illinois Department on Aging. And then you also have Department of Rehab Services as well, DOORS. So there are some resources available for those who are.
You broke up a little bit. I lost you for a second. Was it Felice? You there?
Yes, this is me.
Yeah, there you go. You lost you for about a second. What was that last sentence you said? You're breaking up again.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. So you have the Illinois Department on Aging. You have the VA. And then you also have Department of Rehabilitation Services.
Okay.
For some resources available for seniors and people with disabilities. But as Rochelle mentioned, I think one of the challenges as a community provider for these services for members or people who need them, I think it's just getting the information. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, that you know about these services, aware of these services. Oftentimes, you're not told or you're not, given the information. Even with the VA, I encountered a lot of veterans who will otherwise qualify or possibly qualify for the services, but because they've never been told that these services are available through the VA for veterans, they just don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I had a hard time even myself. I remember one time I ran across a vet who needed some home health care. He was by himself, had no family, no beneficiaries, nothing. Living by himself, and he had to go into a facility, but he couldn't afford the facility. So the next best thing, since his house was paid for, and he qualified for some kind of tax credits because of some counties, a lot of counties around the country, if you're a veteran, particularly if you're a disabled veteran, particularly if you're a veteran of certain wars, they might even waive your property taxes. If people need to research in there where they live and see what kind of property tax benefits are in their area. So his house is paid for, but he can't live in it because he can't live by himself. So trying to find the care, it was. Months later, we finally got him at least. And plus, he had never been in the VA system. He had never applied for any VA benefits other than his tax credits. So what's the best option to go? The Department of Aging you mentioned, the VA, but do all the VA's facilities have the same information?
No, they do not. And I think it depends on the doctor or their nurse. Some of the doctors at the VA. And a social worker. I have some claims because I'm also a community partner with the VA, with both Jesse Brown and Hines. So some will provide that information and send me the referrals. But oftentimes, like yesterday, as a matter of fact, I went to meet with a family. The husband has early stages of Alzheimer's, a Vietnam veteran. And, of course, they were going to pay out of pocket. They were going to go privately with my agency. So I asked the question, I'm like, do you know this is a service you could possibly get through the VA? And you may not have to pay for it, or at least you get the help with the cost. Because they were looking for about, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. They had no clue that they were, and he actually used the VA. Wow. But they were willing to pay me as an agency. And he is a Vietnam, 100% disabled veteran. So
Shameful.
I told the wife, I said, what you need to do is call his social worker or call the VA, his doctor, and let his doctor know. Because based on what they look for, they have like a chart, if you will. And if they meet, I think it's 3 of the ADLs, activities of daily living, if they need assistance or are unable to do it on their own, then they can possibly qualify. With him being 100%, he would definitely qualify. So I advised her to call her doctor, or his doctor rather, and let him know that, he needs some home care because she's at home. She's his primary caregiver, and they got all the kids taking turns to assist. So that's a good example. She had no clue. As a Vietnam veteran, he was possibly possibly eligible for some home care services. So I think at the VA, oftentimes it's just if you're not, it's just the information not given.
No, and then there's a problem
Rochelle,
in between.
Before we go into that, Rochelle, can people contact because you're a not-for-profit, NWVU.
We're not-for-profit.
Can people go to an organization like yours and get these types of resources, get information about these things?
If they come to our resources, we're actually going to link them to Nancy's daycare because they are licensed, and if she cannot take them or help them, she basically is going to refer them to another entity. And that's the same thing with us. Before we transfer people, we get all the information, and it's just like not me saying, okay, I'm going to send them to Nancy's daycare. I'm going to contact Nancy's daycare, and I'm going to give them the scenario, and I'm going to give them the income bracket. I'm going to tell them everything. And my question is, can you help this person? It's not just a handoff with no hand.
Right.
Instead of sending them to a closed door. We first find out. We do all the running for them, all the calling for them. So they don't have to do anything except then register for a system that has indicated based on what you have given us, including income factors and everything, we can help that person. And if they can't, then we are going on to the next phase of that.
And
we do that for all referrals that we do. We do not just send people to people without having that exclusive conversation with them in order to make sure that they can be helped.
So are VSOs doing a good job with that?
No, I think, and that's what I was going to kind of allude to, was that I am hoping that they're doing better than what they were initially. They had one person typically handling home care services. You could never contact that person. You leave messages. In fact, that lady was so overwhelmed, and this is the honest God truth. I called the VA, and she answered the phone, hello. That's how overwhelmed she was. I said, is this the VA? Wow. Yes, it is. How can I help you? And I was like, oh, wow. I'm thinking to myself, so when do we pick up a phone and say hello?
Right.
And not indicate who you are and where you are. Wow. But then I found out from her own supervisor that she was the sole person working in that system. And we were calling about something urgent. We had a member who basically was still in the military, but she was transitioning basically out of the military, but she had not been transferred yet. So we were trying to see what kind of services we could get her while she was on that TDR program, not yet ready, the paperwork hadn't gone through, in other words. We're trying to set her up so that she would, be able to do it, to have the home care services that she needed today, because the military didn't provide it. And I think, Felice, you can correct me if I'm wrong, going through the TRICARE was much more expensive for her to do that piece to it. And the military pretty much was more interested in trying to get her discharged out the military so that it could become the VA's problem. But it was a smart nurse at the facility hospital where she was that would not allow them to go in that room and make her sign those papers. She said, you will not do this to my patient. And she did not let the military in. They said she belonged to us. And she told them, not today, she doesn't.
Wow.
And then she eventually passed away. But she was able to get all of her honors just because that nurse was thinking and did not allow the military to discharge her.
She passed away.
So, you got some things that are going on that are unique things that are going on that the VA pretty much may not ever be privy of, you know what I'm saying? So it's all types of things that fall on the social worker, but when you only have a few social workers that are working in that entity, you lose sight of what's going on around you in the communities, and you're only dealing with the people who you have in the hospital because that's where they are located. They're in the hospital, and they have to make decisions for those people as well. But they don't do a really, really good job at it because they have too many patients and they have too many other jobs that they do.
That's the thing.
And I'm glad to know that they're doing better. I don't want to take that away from them to say that they're not doing better, because they are doing much better. And I salute them wholeheartedly for doing better. But we still have a long way to go. We still have things that we need to hold them accountable for, and that's why we're having this conversation today also.
But it seems like the big issue is, and this is not just with the VA but across the country, is that we have an aging global population, particularly here in the United States and Western country. So more and more people are aging. We have people living longer, and it seems like a lot of industries, corporate America, I think, has already figured this out. They're ahead of the game. It seems like they're getting stuff, getting marketing ready. You're seeing AARP commercials on every time you turn around on TV. They're already aware of this, and they have their marketing schemes all in line. The VA seems like, and a lot of other places, have to catch up.
But remember, Social Security has been talking about this for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
Preparing us for the wrath of, the next generations who will not really be able to enjoy Social Security money to the fullest.
Right, exactly. We might have a day we wake up where there's 2 seniors for every person who's not a senior. Where the majority of the population will be a senior population here in America. So you got to get things online. You got to start. So what is in the military is even more so, because the military population is shrinking, and we're an aging population at the same time. So we have 22 million, roughly 21 million, roughly veterans. More than half, something like 65%, I believe, is actually closer, are seniors.
Yes.
Another challenge
I saw was 11 million that are over 60 years old.
Another challenge too I see with it. Oh, that's okay, Rochelle. One of the other things, even with the veterans, amongst the veterans that I have within my agency that have been approved for home care services through the VA. I think too the VA, they've been approved and they need care. Some live alone, but the VA will only authorize them 3 hours a week, 6 hours a week.
That's what I heard. There was something about trying to get so many hours.
I mean, I have a few. One gentleman, he's unable to get himself cleaned in the morning. He's unable to put his clothes on. He has dementia. Every morning when the caregiver, she only goes 3 days a week, but when she show up, she has to help him get dressed. It hurts him just to walk to the bathroom. And he only gets about 6 hours a week. I even talked to his social worker, and it's like that's all they want to give him. And to me, it's like he needs more care. He needs more help. He lives alone. He's a single Vietnam veteran. He lives alone, really don't have family to help.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me jump this. Ask you this one question: Is that because there's not enough resources or not enough people to allocate that kind of time that he needs? Or is it because they're just being stingy with the hours they want to pay for?
I think it's been stingy. It's not so much the people. I think they just really been stingy with the hours. I think that has a lot to do with it.
And then there's other organizations like this was actually something the VA actually mentioned to me, which I thought about for, like I said, a particular friend of mine that passed away, but at that time needed care, using Catholic charities, using other non-for-profits to try to step in and fill that gap and fill that void. So it leads me to my next question is, does the VA pay for, this is my last question because we're running out of time, does the VA pay for someone else to come in to provide cooking, cleaning, helping you straighten your house, take your medicine, things like that, take you to the doctor?
No. So some of my veterans, they do. You can actually, I call it double dip. So you can also receive if you're qualified. But with the Department on Aging, they actually have stricter qualifications than even the VA. Wow. In terms of it's based on income. Now, a lot of my vets are eligible for it. So a lot of vets do substitute some of the hours. Maybe the VA give them 6 and they may get 15 through the Department on Aging. Okay. So I do have some like that. But I still believe, though, it's just not enough, some of my vets, they really and truly need at least, 8 hours a day. Someone not just in the morning, but maybe in the evening as well, help them get in bed. And they just, some have family to help, but those that don't have family. They don't have really anyone to assist them. They're pretty much left to their own devices. So I think that's another challenge, which is the aging population, the growing need, and the cost is very expensive to try to pay out of pocket. And not just veterans, but people in general, is unless you prepare for that. It can, you got other medical expenses, and then your own just day-to-day living to, provide for yourself. Having home care is tough. And most seniors want to stay home. They don't want to go to a nursing home. And that's kind of the option for so many who kind of can, if with the right care, stay home. But they're almost forced to a nursing home or some kind of facility because it's just too costly for them.
On that note, Felice Searles, she's a U.S. Air Force disabled veteran and executive director of Nancy's Home Care Services. And Rochelle Crump, thank you for coming back, U.S. Army veteran, president and founder of National Women's Veterans United. Thank you for your time and all the information you gave us.
Thank you so much.
Well.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.